The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. And away we grow. Hey there, everyone, and welcome one and all to the show. This is the Green Acres Garden Podcast. It's that time of the week, the best time of the week.
Yeah.
It's time to talk plants, learn a little bit, have a little bit of fun out in that garden. My name's Kevin Jordan. I'm back in studio with Austin Blank on audio. How's it going, Austin?
Hey, everybody. My name is Austin Blank, and I'm your sound engineer for today's show. I'm going to make sure all the levels are just right and fly this ship in and out. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
I appreciate that.
We're talking gardening today. It's my favorite time of the week, Kevin. So how are you doing this week?
So busy, just wrapping things up, getting everything planted for the season.
Cool.
The school garden is looking lush. The tomatoes they're 3 feet tall, so they're
Nice.
getting pretty good, pretty quick. As things are heating up, I can tell things are rooting in. So for us, I'm really excited for the end of the school year and really excited to see how things turn out. But I'm even more juiced up to share this week's guest was just phenomenal.
Yep.
We've been trying. Actually, you can go back several years from the start of when I first came on the pod.
Okay.
Producer Greg kept running this name by me. Hey, we got to get her on. We got to get her on. Daisy
he's
Ma.
been teasing
Daisy
it.
Ma. And actually, our paths crossed years ago when I went down to the Sacramento Perennial Plant Club with my hand out, with my hat in my hand, asking for some money for a scholarship for my school program. And a grant, actually, and they provided us with several grants over a couple different years. It allowed my students to grow some amazing, beautiful strawberries each and every year. Actually ate some today with my kids.
Nice.
Went with my students. They loved it. And the vertical succulent wall that we built around our shed. That is all because of the work of her and her comrades out there at the Sacramento Perennial Plant Club. But we got her on to talk with us about her journey and her evolution in gardening and landscaping, and she has done something incredible. And I don't want to know if I should step on it or not, Austin.
Well, we've got a great, interview with her. We sat down with her in her space that she created at the WPA Rock Garden. And I can't believe I had never been there before. I've been to the zoo, which is right there. But if you're a Sacramento native, you know Land Park and our zoo, and right across the street from there is the WPA Rock Garden, and it is Daisy's creation, and she's done an amazing job. She is a very inspiring person, very motivating.
Oh, yeah.
What I kept thinking about when I was hearing her story is how resilient she is in the face of challenges, and that's like what I'm realizing. This is a garden. This is true in gardening. Like, you have to face the weather and challenges all the time in your garden, right? And you're always adapting and figuring it out. And she is very strong and capable to fight through all these years of challenges to make that garden special. And it really is beautiful.
Well, the garden has historical roots, which how it got its name, and Daisy will attest to that. But Daisy Ma, she's as humble as a bumblebee, but I'd say probably works 2 to 3 times as hard, twice as busy, and is an incredible person to learn from. The garden it's like this 1 acre magical plot of land that I've actually, unlike you, Austin, I did grow up going there. Whenever I went to the zoo, whoever I went with, my mom or my auntie, we'd walk over there either before or after the zoo. And it was like this magical wonderland of weird plants, flowers and leaves and trees and shrubs, everything, the birds and the bees, the flowers and the trees. I mean, it was this place where it was tucked in a park, but the park around it is it's mowed grass, there's big trees, but this dense little area has, hundreds of different varieties of plants and flowers, and it's just absolutely incredible.
Some plants I was familiar with and some I wasn't. So I'm curious, Kevin, if you could shout out like a really cool plant that we saw there. What's a good one to highlight that we could say, it grows well because it's growing well in the rock garden. Maybe we should take it into our own landscapes too. What stood out?
There was a few that looked really good when we were there about a week ago. All of the euphorbs that were in there were just popping with their blossoms. But really, I love the cotinus, the purple smoke trees.
Yep.
Really stood out. They were blooming and kind of that like burgundy leaf kind of bursting out with all the green around it. Looked really good. I saw a ton of aloe with hummingbirds on it, but one that really spoke to me that kind of was dotted around the landscape, and it's probably naturalized and is reseeding a little bit. It didn't seem too invasive, but you can see it was kind of had these little pockets of color, and it was the nigella, I think love in a mist, sometimes it's called. A little flowering plant. It can be drought tolerant, good as a cut flower. These bright blossomy little blue blossoms on there with kind of like what is that, lacy, Austin?
Okay.
Kind of, like a lacy
Like the
look.
lacy facilia.
Yes.
It's that kind of texture
So
to it.
the leaves are very textured, and they were all over the place, just kind of spotted around. Really beautiful. I mean, there were so many. I mean, the salvias, obviously the sages were looking great. And tons of interesting plants that aren't native to California, but then a lot of natives are starting to get planted in there, and climate-adapted plants. Even the acanthus, the bear's breech, which sometimes you'll see it in shade gardens, and it was tucked under some of the shadier areas where it's harder to get things to grow. Looked beautiful. They had their flower spikes coming up. Really, I mean, if you want to get inspired after this episode, get in your car and go down to the WPA Rock Garden, or as I like to call it, the Daisy Ma Garden.
There we go.
But incredible place to get inspired. Daisy has been on a journey because she worked for the city parks, and she kind of has gone above and beyond what her call of duty was, and really has transformed a neglected kind of little garden that and has really now evolved into something magical and special. And so to share that with people is just, man, it is a dream come true.
Let's jump into the interview real quick though. You mentioned the plant that you wanted to highlight, nigella.
Yeah.
I just wanted real quick, in case it was too fast for anybody to write down. Can you say what the name of that was one more time?
Nigella. I think it's love in a mist. Sometimes they'll have other varietals for it. You'll see it in seed packets. Oftentimes sold.
Okay.
You can grow from seed. Pretty cool little flower.
Okay, cool. I want to check that out. All right, so we have a great interview with the legendary Daisy Ma. We sat down with her inside her own creation at the WPA Rock Garden in Sacramento, California. Let's go talk to Daisy. Here we go.
Daisy, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners? Tell us a little bit who you are and where are we today and what are we going to talk about?
Oh, thank you. We're sitting in the WPA Rock Garden.
Yep.
I'm Daisy Ma, and I am now retired from the city of Sacramento, but I worked in the Parks Department and started basically at McKinley in the Rose Garden. But it wasn't quite what, I didn't care for it because it's all roses. And I don't like to limit myself to one kind of plant. Even though I love roses, I thought,
You wanted to broaden your horizons?
Yeah, I wanted perennials, annuals, everything. Cactus, succulents. And when I came to William Land Park, there was this site here that was actually in not very good condition.
What it looked like before, because right now it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, well, it was planted with, ivy was a big part of it, hypericum and vinca, and then weeds.
Just things that would spread out and just grow.
Yeah, low maintenance. People would walk through here, and after I started beautifying it in about 1980, maybe 88. I started in 86. And they were like, well, where'd this happen? I mean, we don't remember this. It was always like a means to getting to somewhere else.
Well, how did this all start? So you said it was just ivy, it was some hypericum, some vinca, but then what was the catalyst? How did it go from that to this? And why did you do that? Why did you do that?
Well, I would say I'm a little irrational in that it was not,
Some say irrational, I say rebel.
Well, I was in a department that doesn't really care about improvement. It's called a maintenance. It's a maintenance position. Flowers are too much trouble, so that's usually off the list. And after a while, there was no availability, and so I had to figure out where am I getting plants? And I learned how to propagate, and that was really good to learn, and I continue to learn about it because, I don't know, it's tricky.
Then you can make more plants from the
More
plants you
plants.
get access to.
Yeah, yeah. And being a member of the Perennial Plant Club, we raise quite a bit of money from our plant sales, and then we give it away, donate it to good causes like community gardens and wildlife,
I mentioned to you right before we got the mics warmed up, thank you so much to the Sacramento Perennial Plant Club, and thank you, Daisy, because you and all your colleagues actually provided a grant to me and my students a few years back, and we have grown vertical strawberry gardens because of that. And thanks to the work and support you guys provided for us, now my students get to grow, harvest, and eat fresh strawberries from spring, summer, and through fall each and every year. And so we've had years of that. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's our pleasure, really. We want to get kids interested in gardening.
Absolutely.
Because, if they don't start young, it's a little harder as they get older. And, we want it to be just like breathing. It's a natural part of their lives. And I think you learn so much. You grow so much, literally, but when you are a gardener, it takes patience, and you got to plan ahead. There's so much involved that some people don't realize that there's a lot to it.
Well, a little bit of planning can go a long way. How did you plan? Like, how did you get it up off the ground, and how did you get approval? What did that look like?
Oh, well, my supervisor at the time discouraged me from doing.
They wanted to keep business as usual.
Yeah, maintenance. Just keep things the same. And I didn't really listen to him, and he didn't reprimand me either. So he kind of stood back and, like,
I'll ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Lesson.
And she'll probably fail. This is a 1 acre site, and without support, financial support, it's pretty challenging. But I was born into a Chinese immigrant family, and they came with nothing, at zero, no money when they first arrived here, and somehow they scraped a living, and they raised a family and forced us to go to college, and I'm glad they did, because they had to kind of push me a little bit.
Yeah, it's good to have that level of encouragement.
It was, but as far as, we learned to be resourceful. And so if you don't have anything, you figure out a way to create things. So,
make it happen.
So seeds is the way I started. And I had no idea what I was doing, believe me. It was, I was happy if anything lived. And, I would look around at the garden for many years, and I thought, this garden is not very attractive. And at one point, I was so frustrated, I thought, I'm going to have to make it beautiful. And so that meant, changing my direction a little bit and kind of planning for, beauty. The problem with plants, though, sometimes they lose their leaves, and they're real little when you first start planting, and it's a little bit hard to envision sometimes what a plant will do. But, over the course of 25 years, I did learn. Right.
You have a lot. You said it's 1 acre.
Yeah.
There are a lot of plants in here. When we pulled up, I was like, man, it's a really hot, sunny day.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be cooking out there in the garden, but now I don't feel that at all. It's cool. We're in the shade.
It's very nice.
We're in this beautiful little arbor area, and we're under the canopy. And I swear, it feels 20, 30 degrees cooler under here. How has the garden evolved and changed? Like when you first planted, you said it didn't look quite like this.
No.
But it looks pretty impressive now.
Well, I came right before we had a massive threat of flooding.
Yeah.
And when I first started, we used to have a lot of frost, a lot of fog. If you went to the nursery, a lot of the plants were from Asia. Like there were azaleas, rhododendrons, Japanese maples.
All the usual suspects.
Yeah, and I loved them. They're all spectacular. They're beautiful. And so those are the plants I kind of strive to grow. But over the years, with the diminishing availability of water, and a lot of this was hand watered for years. Those kind of plants started fading away. They suffered when in the heat and in the dry conditions, and so I'm converted to more drought tolerant, like succulents and Australian, Mediterranean, and then now California natives. We're trying to introduce that.
That trend is just, I think, the momentum behind the climate adapted plants, native plants.
Yes.
I mean, that is just.
It's really big now.
Yeah, it's growing. It's snowballing fast. And you can kind of see it on the landscape in here.
Oh, you can. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it took me a while to jump into the planting. Well, for a while, I didn't have a lot of financial support.
How does everything get paid for now?
Sometimes out of my pocket. But,
no.
Yeah, but if it's a big purchase, the Perennial Plant Club kicks in, and we've been getting some generous donations. And there's a T-shirt that I helped design that has generated a few $1,000s.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible because you brought up, like, you choose a lot of plants that are somewhat common, and I love it because I was walking in, I realized a lot of these are plants that we landscape with already and garden with and grow with. But because of the layout of your garden, I want to describe to our listeners meandering trails of decomposed granite. I mean, they're all bordered by beautiful rock beds. So all the garden beds are kind of semi-raised. There's a couple water features. There's a beautiful canopy of just taller trees that kind of dot through the landscape. There's a canopy below that, and then there's down on earth where we are. It is absolutely gorgeous. The sunlight is popping through and shining through some of these flowers in the late afternoon. You can see the birds flying. You can hear them. There's a lot of pollinators in here.
There is.
Do you have some favorites? I've got to ask.
Oh, geez.
Because there's some of these trees I noticed. I mean, the cypress really caught my eye.
Yeah, that's a favorite partly because it has sentimental value. It's a cashmere cypress. And I would defy you to find,
another one.
Another one. I do know where another one is, and we were on the same shopping trip. So she got one, and then I got one, and it is a very, distinctive weeping cypress tree, and rare. You probably won't see it.
Now, outside of that beautiful cypress, are there some trees out here? I see this red bud right here that looks beautiful, this multi-trunk.
Yeah.
What are some of the trees that are establishing some of the shade in this garden that you would recommend for other people in our area? You talked about going towards plants that are either native or climate adapted, things that can tolerate a hotter, drier future. What are some that you think would be ones that you would plant again?
Yeah, arbutus, marina,
strawberry tree.
Tree. The smoke tree, catinus. Though it, part of the year it loses its leaves, but it's a really stunning tree, and that tree grows from Europe all the way through Asia, so Eurasian, and that kind of tells you is a very adaptable tree.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love the color. The leaves are kind of this kind of smoky purple, kind of muted, a little maroon, and then those flower bracts come
feathery.
up.
Yeah, it's a nice texture.
Love it.
I think people admire the contrast and the texture change, and color. It's just really beautiful.
What are a few plants out here that are just bee magnets for some of those native bees that you've noticed?
Well, they're not all here yet, but Kufia is a really good one. The one called Starfire Pink. That is a year-long bloomer, and there's bees all over that thing, almost year-round. Though they do go hibernating part of the year, but honeybees I don't think hibernate
the same way as natives.
Yeah, they're more year-long, as long as they have a source and it's a somewhat warm day in the winter. They will come up. But the hummingbirds also like that plant. Salvias in general are fantastic. Lamb's ears, which is in that family.
The Lamaceae and whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah, once they bloom, like rosemary or whatever, once those ones start blooming, pollinators are on it.
Yeah, and I've been introducing more California native annuals, which in a way, it's a short-term, thing, but hopefully they will get pollinated, produce viable seed, and naturalize.
That'd be great.
That would be great. It really hasn't happened yet, but I think this might be the year. There are a lot of native annuals that are really subtle, and I would like to start off with the showier ones. There's one called Tidy Tips and Madia with big yellow flowers, and you would think it was something that was developed in a laboratory or hybridized.
Just that beautiful.
So big and showy, and so I think that's a good one.
There's a lot of beauty in the natives.
There are.
Some of the flowers are small and gorgeous as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of fun too to kind of like be with the season and see them.
Yeah.
The ones that come early in the spring.
Yeah,
yeah. Something to look forward to.
Well, like Clarkia's, it's called Farewell to Spring because it waits and waits, and all the other wildflowers seem to be blooming, and you think, why is it not blooming? Well, it waits till it heats up, and it's like the last native annual that goes to town. And so they call it Farewell to Spring, bye,
I love it.
Yeah, I'm trying to incorporate more grasses too, native grasses.
Yeah?
I'm particular, only native.
Is there one you got your sights set on?
I have Bouteloua gracilis or blue grama.
Yeah?
Or I like mosquito, but
kind of comes up and just dances a little bit.
Yeah, It looks so sweet in the fall when a lot of the grasses go dormant, but it seems like it blooms at a nice time for me. And
I love the movement that the grasses will create when the wind kind of comes through them.
Yeah.
Kind of makes the garden seem a little bit more alive.
Mm-hmm. And another reason why I've used them is that they can handle being stepped on. I mean, they won't look good, but it won't kill it.
Yeah.
So they could recover. It's not like a salvia, it's very brittle, and so it gets stepped on, and that's it. When it's young, that's the story of his life. It got stepped on, that's the end. But grasses are more, able to withstand abuse. So they're my pioneers. They're really tough. Oop, there's a frog.
Yeah.
Wow, right on cue.
There we go. Yeah, the sun's just getting a little low. They're like, all right, I'll wake up and talk.
Yeah, great.
So we're hearing the frog. I've seen some bugs, but how does this garden support wildlife? Do you notice that it's is it a magnet to them?
Well,
is that a problem or is that a blessing?
Oh, I think it's a blessing.
There we go.
I am so happy when I am here, and I'm not always here. I'm only here.
You don't live in this garden? Huh.
Sometimes it feels like it. But,
I'm sure.
But I'm kind of limited. My stay here is limited to my volunteering.
Yeah.
And that's usually morning, early afternoon.
When it's nice.
And during the week, so it's kind of quiet. But when I have come later in the day, I was amazed at all the birds that were flying through here. And it was kind of like they were, I guess catching bugs, or I don't know what they were doing, but they were just flitting around me.
Oh, yeah.
It made me happy.
There's plenty of spaces for them to hide, to nest, things to eat and enjoy.
Yeah, we've had, mourning doves. They're beautiful, and they have that soulful,
Yeah.
But they're not the brightest, and they were struggling trying to nest here, and finally they decided to try the bunya tree, and success, because it's so prickly that no predators are willing to risk, being injured getting to their nest.
Can you tell us about that tree's gorgeous. It looks like a conifer, and it has a beautiful shape, like it has been sheared to have this
it is very
wonderful kind of pyramidal. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little about it. It's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, it's called a bunya tree, and it's from the southern hemisphere, actually Australian, and it's the cousin of the monkey puzzle. tree, which is a little different. That is a more sculptural, I would say. The branching is more spaced out. But this is quite a stunning tree, and a friend of mine showed up on my front door, and she was holding this. It looked kind of like a pineapple, but it was the seed pod of the bunya tree, and it was probably...
It's a gymnosperm. It's a
I think it is. They weigh up to 20 pounds.
Wow.
And she said, "This is for you." And so I thought, well, I'm going to start it. So I planted I cleaned off the outer coating, and I planted the seed. And in a few days, I was curious what would happen. The roots in a few days had already hit the bottom.
Wow.
They are very fast growers as seeds, but the seeds are short-lived. So if it's not fresh,
they don't stay viable for too long.
Yeah. So I hit the jackpot.
It's beautiful. What's that one, 30, 40 feet tall? Yeah, when did you plant this?
Probably in about 1990.
Wow, it has grown so much.
Yeah.
If someone's listening and they're like, this kind of sounds cool, it's like I'm retired, or I have a little extra time, or I just want to meet some people in a positive way. It's like, how could someone become one of your friends and become a volunteer and help out here in the garden?
Oh yeah, if even someone who doesn't have a lot of knowledge of plants, we will train them to weed and deadhead, which is removing flowers, and we start them with simple things, and sometimes they don't progress beyond that, but all those things help.
Yeah, any help is helpful.
Yeah.
Who would they contact, and how can they get a hold of you?
Oftentimes, you can look at the City of Sacramento's Parks Department site, and there's a place where you can indicate you'd like to volunteer.
All right.
And there's a volunteer form that you can, or
and then
just
they send those people to you, or what?
Yeah. So it's pretty low key, but you got to provide your own, tools.
Yeah, got to bring your gloves.
Got to bring your gloves,
Get a hat, some sunscreen, bottle of water.
Yeah, and pruning shears and a weeder, and then you're set.
That sounds like fun. It's
nice. It's
what
nice.
a great thing to do, and then a sense of pride people must feel after working on it.
Yeah. I have to admit, about 6 years ago, I'd been retired about 7 years, and I was still somewhat involved, but the staff didn't have time to care for this garden, and it was progressively declining, and it was pretty awful. And, I had grown a lot of plants that needed care, and those plants just withered away, and what was left were the weeds or weedy plants that I had planted, but I managed it. Well, that went out the door, and it was about 6 years ago now. I looked around and I thought, is it time to give up?
No.
It was so bad, and there were hardly any volunteers, and we're all kind of tired and we couldn't do it. It was too much. And then soon after that, the volunteers started showing up, and and that energy was restored, and I thought, well, now's our last chance.
So the energy comes from the volunteers?
It does. Uh-huh.
I want to thank you so much for your time, and I want to just wish you farewell and best wishes on this. And if there's anything that we can do on our end to support you and your colleagues, you just let us know, because we love you. We love the work that you've done, and
thank you.
I think you have created a little urban paradise here. This is a little slice of heaven, as my mom would call it.
Oh.
And if it wasn't for you, your colleagues, all the volunteers putting in these hours for decades, this wouldn't exist, and we wouldn't be talking here right now. So I'm so glad that you were an employee who just could not be satisfied with the status quo. You went above and beyond, and then some. And the result is something absolutely spectacular. And I think if people want to get inspired to do incredible things in their own lives or their own landscapes, to live artistically like you and be connected with nature, come out here to the WPA Rock Garden, walk around 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, maybe stop, take a seat, and enjoy it, because you will get, and I'm telling you, Daisy, I think they will get inspired. If you're listening right now, you come to this garden, you will absolutely be inspired by the beauty, the work that's done here, and then maybe bring some of that back home. Sometimes people don't know how to create their own landscapes. They have an idea of what they kind of want, but we're all kind of new to this. We're all new at one point to plants, and I think to be able to walk around, to see the rock beds, to see the DG pathways, to see the different levels of plants you have, all the different textures of plants you have, the colors, the full, it's a great example of what can be done in a space in such an interesting way. So I'm just blown away by your work, Daisy.
Oh, I'm humbled by all those wonderful things that you've just said.
Hey, well,
thank you very much.
You know what? You rock, and we are so thankful to have you. So thanks for making time for us and
of course.
Speaking with me. And maybe we'll get to talk again soon, I hope.
Yeah. This is a garden that changes throughout the season. There's always, something to talk about.
All right, we are back from our interview with Daisy. Big shout out to Daisy Ma. It was such a pleasure to meet you. And if you're listening and you have not been to this place, this garden, I highly recommend. Go check it out, the WPA Rock Garden. It's a must, right, Kevin?
You're sure to be inspired, for sure. I think what she's done is fantastic. I'm so grateful and thankful, and hopefully we can get more of that spirit, because the status quo is not enough.
Yep.
If we want to have beauty in our lives, we got to go out there and make it happen.
Be like Daisy.
Be like Daisy, right? And so actually, she takes volunteers. So if you want to support what Daisy does, you can get in touch with her through the Sacramento Perennial Plant Club. They take donations. They have plant sales. They have meetings. You could become a member.
Yep.
You could also help out. I know she's down there on Thursday mornings, getting after it in that garden.
Hi.
And they're looking for volunteers all the time. So at the
and
very least,
I'll drop a link to the Perennial Plant Club in the episode description.
Awesome.
So you can find that there. But yeah, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and take us out?
So really quick, Austin, before we go, I got to give a huge thank you to somebody.
Okay, what you got?
Massive thanks to producer Greg for setting up this interview. It's been coming a long time. Greg's had over 40 years of experience working in the nursery industry and not just working in the industry, but making friendships and relationships with all the people in our region. And he set this up for us. And honestly, it was the interview of a lifetime. So thank you to producer Greg. Much appreciated.
He's the unsung hero on this show. He does so much for us. So yeah, thanks, producer Greg. We've got to get him back on the show again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right.
It's going to be another great week. So please get out there, take care of yourself, take care of your plants, and we'll see you back here for another wonderful episode, Talking Plants, friends.
Yeah.
So happy gardening to you all, and please never stop growing.